Okay, so this exercise is the split squat, and this is quite a good starting point to introduce athletes to a unilateral movement as the weight's split between two legs still. So within the split squat, most important teaching points are that 90-90 degrees. So we want 90 degrees at the front leg and 90 degrees at the back leg. If we work from top down, then we want that head looking forward, neutral spine, including that neutral pelvis position, and knees tracking toes. So if we were looking from the front, we'd want to make sure that that knee was in line with the toe and the athlete wasn't getting into that valgus position where their knees come in. It's also really important that we want the weight split evenly between that front and back foot. So the weight is going to be through the heel of that front foot and through the toe of that back foot. So once we're happy that an athlete can do a split squat, we can make it a little bit more dynamic by changing it into a lunge. So this challenges them to find a good 90-90 position by stepping backwards or stepping forwards. So in this example, we've got a reverse lunge where they're stepping backwards. And the reverse lunge can be quite a nice fix if an athlete's just allowing that knee to come forward in that split squat. So it actually challenges them to keep their weight backwards. In this video then we've got a forward lunge. So quite a common error with the forward lunge is that athlete just lets that knee come too far forward over that front toe. So when we look from the side, we want that knee to be above that heel. So again, we still want that 90-90 degree position. So what we could do is cue the athlete, imagine they've got a pole coming straight up from their toe, don't let their knee touch that pole on that front foot. So after an athlete's mastered the lunging positions or the split squat, we can change it up by elevating the front or the back foot. So this one here is a rear foot elevated split squat, or also known as a Bulgarian split squat. And all this is going to do is it's going to challenge the athlete through a wider range of movement. So they're able to get in a lot more flexion in that bottom position. If you had an athlete that was limited in hip flexor mobility, they might struggle with this movement. Again, teaching points are still the same, so we want that nice neutral spine, head looking forward, knees tracking toes. So this is an example of a front foot elevated split squat. So just complete opposite of rear foot elevated. So we're lifting that front foot up and requiring that athlete to get in a lot more hip flexion in that front foot. So as an example, I might use this one with the rowers as it's quite transferable to the sport because they need to apply force in that end range hip flexion. Importantly, we wouldn't get an athlete to do either of this front foot or rear foot elevated variations before they'd really mastered just the split squat. So with all of our exercises, we can obviously change up where we're holding the bar. So we can go bar on the back, or we can actually also change it to a front rack position. And all this is going to do is it's going to load them more on the front, and this can be a good fix if you have an athlete that's flexing forward and just not keeping that nice upright chest position. And it could also be good if you wanted to load the quadriceps more, so we're putting more weight through the front of the legs. So this one's then onto our single leg squat. So this is more of a true single leg exercise. So we're kind of bearing all the load through one leg. And this is one variation where we can get an athlete to squat down to a box. If they were struggling, what we can do is get them to do just the eccentric phase. So they just do the way down to the box. Then they could put the other leg down and stand up on two legs. And all this does is it takes advantage of the fact that we're a lot stronger eccentrically. So it gets them to develop their movement competency and awareness of positions just through the eccentric phase. This example is a single leg squat where we're actually stood on a box. So again, we could do exactly the same on this exercise. We could say, don't worry about the way up. And we could say, we just want you to go as slow as possible on the way down. So if we were cueing our athlete here, we might say, imagine you're stepping down onto an egg and you don't want to crack that egg. So they're controlling that motion on the way down. Also really important, again, with all of our single leg exercises, that we're watching that knee position. So we really don't want the athlete to get in that valgus knee position. So from the front, we're making sure that that knee's tracking that toe. And if an athlete demonstrated it in a bilateral movement, they're obviously going to be even more likely to do it in a unilateral movement. So we wouldn't progress them to any of these unilateral exercises if they couldn't competently do a squat. This variation then is our step up. So we're just challenging the athlete to step up and hold that position. And there's variations of this, so you could make the step up onto the box more dynamic. You could take away that pause in that top position and just ask them to really apply the force stepping up onto the box. And obviously we could challenge them more by increasing the height of the box. And then this is our single leg RDL. So we're just teaching the athlete to hinge in this movement, and we're teaching them on a single leg variation. With this one, teaching points, we want that head in neutral. So when that chest goes down, that chin also goes down too. We also want to make sure that we're keeping that nice straight line from head to toe. So we've got that neutral spine. But you may want to cue the athlete to imagine they're drawing a line and they've got to stretch that leg out as far away as they can. Quite a common error with this one is athletes will like to rotate round. So we could cue our athlete to keep that toe pointing down towards the floor, or keep their hips pointing directly forward and not letting them shift sideways and rotate.